Hello everybody, thank you for joining us today for the InduSoft webinar covering digital signage applications. My name is Scott Courtier and I'm Senior Technical Sales with InduSoft, and I'm going to be covering a few different things before we hand over the presentation to our good friend Andre at Compunet Automation. I'm going to do a quick audio check with Andre. Andre, are you there still?
Yes, Scott, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, great, perfect. Yep, and we've got confirmation from other places that your audio is good. I'm going to mute you for the portion of my presentation. I'll bring you back on in just a little while. So thanks, Andre.
Thanks, bye.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. The types of things that I'm going to cover here are the different types of digital signage and maybe some opportunities that you can take a look at or maybe never thought of on how you could possibly use InduSoft Web Studio. Some different architectures and different layouts that might be advantageous for you to use, and the different connectivity and how you can use that to your advantage, and some useful features that are great to be able to use in digital signage type applications. Then I'm going to hand over the presentation to Andre, and he's going to talk about a solution that they created originally for the automotive industry using a Raspberry Pi computer along with Linux. So let's go ahead and get started here. About a year and a half ago, I think it was, I went to the Digital Signage Trade Show in Las Vegas, Nevada, and presented some things there, as well as took a look at the different digital signage things that are available. And boy, I have to say that there's literally thousands of different types of digital signage applications that are out there. And what I did is, for this webinar, I've reduced that down to just about 3 or 4 different ideas of where InduSoft would likely fall, especially for the customers that we have, like yourselves, that might be involved in industrial automation, dealing with PLCs and or databases, things of that nature. So I recognize that there are a lot of different types of applications involved in digital signage, such as fast food menus in restaurants and outdoor things and things of that nature. But kind of reduced it down and want to talk a little bit about things like production monitoring, where, as an example, up here in the very upper right-hand corner, we've got an OEE, or Overall Equipment Effectiveness display. This display is actually running on a 70-inch industrial computer hanging up in the rafters at a facility. So that was kind of an interesting application. Here's some other ones that we've come up with, and things like wayfinding for motels or hospitals or universities or even office buildings. You might find something like this in front of the elevator, and if you have to find a particular office, you can touch a touch screen and see where you're at and where you have to go. So some things like that. Public and internal information, things like you might find stock reports, or it's Joe's birthday today, or we've made this production. You might find them in common areas such as the lobby or cafeterias, keeping informed employees, things like, I'll show this screen a little bit later on, so we'll talk about it then. And then things like call center metrics, so maybe grabbing information from databases and displaying that in a support queue or support area. So those are some areas where we might find digital signage, and at least in uses of InduSoft. But I would have to focus really on the production monitoring, whether it's business intelligence dashboards, excuse me, which we have an add-on product for, or even some of OEE or KPI type applications. Maybe even something that if there's an emergency, it flips over and talks about evacuation procedures in a facility. I know recently there's been, all over the world, there's been lots of flooding and lots of earthquakes, so maybe this is the type of thing that would help somebody get out of a facility if necessary. So some different architectures. I'm going to cover these in a little bit more detail. A standalone architecture, thin clients. And in the thin clients, we really have 3 thin clients, and I'm going to talk about the SMA thin client separately, and then video walls. And there's certainly not limits to any of these architectures, or we're not limited to just these architectures. these are what I'd like to focus on in the time that we have here. So if we talk about the standalone runtime, where maybe you have an industrial large screen computer, either with a computer built in or as a separate device, or maybe that's a small little PC slapped on the back, or it's included, or a separate Node PC, or maybe it's a commercial grade TV with a Node PC or just a computer running separately from it. Either way, that is a possibility to have InduSoft running on that. And in that case, it would be the full runtime would be running on that PC. Now, taking this the next step is potentially having a thin client. And what I'm talking about here is really, at least the images I'm referencing, is the thin client that we call Secure Viewer. Now, Secure Viewer gives you the ability to remotely run your application. Essentially, all of the application is on a runtime PC server somewhere, and then the remote PCs, which would need to be less horsepower or maybe lower memory requirement PCs, would then get their information from that real runtime, and then as a thin client, display the screens and the data as necessary. Now, the really nice thing about the Secure Viewer client is that it can run edge-to-edge full-screen application. You don't even know that it's not the full runtime, even though that runtime is remote. In fact, during the training class, sometimes I show, in fact, and if you haven't seen the online training videos that we have, one of the techniques that we talk about during the Secure Viewer application is creating a tag called isServer and setting that tag scope to local scope and determining, am I the runtime server, or if not, then I must be a client. And by using that coupled with the function getComputerName, so for example, production 1 might be the computer name for this, cafeteria PC or energy PC might be the names of those computers, or alternatively you could use the IP address. You could determine which client am I, and then take special steps to either open different screens or create special behaviors based on I know I'm not the server and I know I'm this PC, so I need to go get this information from this database or this PLC or this energy monitoring system. So by using that technique, you can cause Secure Viewer to behave differently on different PCs. Now, in a similar fashion, our web thin client, which runs on Internet Explorer, does something very similar. And both of these solutions use security or keep security in mind. But in that case, you see with the web thin client, you see the browser window. And that's more, instead of for a production environment like this, it's more for something like a quality manager or production manager might open that up on their desktop or their laptop computer instead of a large screen monitor acting as an and-on system in the production facility. The web thin client would be more used in an office environment, but same general idea. Now take that another step further. We're going to talk now about the third type of thin client that we have. In this case, it's called SMA, or Studio Mobile Access, and sometimes we just abbreviate that and call it Mobile Access. And this allows you to view and optionally interact with screens, and Andre's got a little bit of a demo where he's going to talk about how they use it and interact with it. But it's really for any HTML5 browser, but more so we find people are using it with iPads or Android, either tablets or phones. So you might have a situation where you have maybe one of the Secure Viewer clients or a web thin client, that doesn't matter. But in addition to that, also out of the runtime server, now you have some type of wireless network, and now maybe you add iPads to that, so you can see production no matter where you're at. You know, it used to be not so long ago that maybe there would be a facility with 10 machines producing parts, and you would have one operator at each of those machines, and now it's probably the case where 10 machines, you only have one or two operators. And in order to be more efficient, maybe they can carry around tablet computers and get alarms or production information and know if they're ahead of schedule or on track, and be able to go to the machine only when there's a problem. Otherwise, it's running in full automatic mode. So there's an architecture that's quite interesting and very doable and easy to do with InduSoft Web Studio. So the next idea is a video wall. If you didn't know this, InduSoft Web Studio can create screens that have resolutions from 240 pixels by 240 pixels up to 10,000 by 10,000 pixels. And if you understand that a normal high-definition monitor, when you hear 1080p, that's the vertical resolution. And the normal resolution for a high-def monitor is 1920 by 1080. Well, if I've done the math right, and you divide that up by the 10,000 by 10,000, that's roughly 5 high-definition monitors wide by 9 high-def monitors tall. And if you can find the hardware that will support that, we support that based on the resolution. Now, there's a concept that you have to be aware here, and we've got a real good application note, tech note on our website that talks about how to display InduSoft Web Studio applications across multiple monitors. But one of the things that I wanted to point out on some recent applications that I've been involved with was this command that we have, this function, built-in function called Set Viewer Position. Now, if you take a normal high-definition monitor and its resolution is 1920 wide by 1080 tall, and you expand your Windows desktop, and maybe you have a video wall type application where you have 4 high-definition monitors in a 2x2 matrix. Now what you have is the InduSoft application really has this thing called the viewer. And the viewer, you can think of it as like your canvas, and screens paint on the canvas. And when you first run your application, even if you have Windows extended across multiple monitors, it will only display by default on the original main monitor. Well, in order to get this to the viewer to span, to span across multiple monitors, you have to use this Set Viewer Position command. And normally you would run this in, let's say, the graphics script. And the reason is because sometimes the startup script executes before the viewer is even fully viewing. So just found that it works to put this in the graphics script. Now the parameters here are the upper left corner and the lower right corner. So you multiply each of these by 2, and essentially you have the 0, 0 coordinate in the upper corner, and the lower right-hand corner would be 3840 by 2160. Hopefully I did that math correct. And then it would set the viewer to span across all of those, and then you could put screens on there that would either take up the whole width of all of those or the portions of those, and you can segment that how you want to. But that's a really nice, handy feature. And again, feel free to take a look at that tech note that we have on the website on how to cross multiple monitors. So talking a little bit about connectivity, some really interesting things that I've seen is using multiple PLCs. And if I go back to an application that's maybe like this diagram, what might be interesting is, especially if you have these large screen monitors are distributed throughout the plant, and maybe they're in different sections of the plant, you might have one section for production getting information from one brand of PLC, and a different application in a different part of the plant, even though they're driven from the same server, maybe that's talking to a different type of PLC or a different protocol. Well, let me skip ahead here. And what I'm getting at is the ability to have simultaneous multiple connections to multiple PLCs or multiple drivers. And also databases, database connectivity, and being able to grab production information or send production information, log information to a database along with the PLC information. And thirdly, at least what I'm going to talk about here, is also the capability to communicate to an OPC server. Now, InduSoft by default is a client that we can talk through anybody's OPC server that's compliant as well. And we communicate as clients as OPC UA, OPC DA, which is probably the more common one that's out there now, at least in the United States. UA is picking up a lot of steam throughout Europe and throughout the U.S. as well. We also support OPC.NET and OPC XML as well. Well, let's turn that around a little bit. OPC can actually, InduSoft Web Studio can actually be an OPC server. So maybe you have got connections to PLCs, databases, and OPC servers through the client, and now some other piece of software wants to come and collect that information out of the InduSoft running application. Well, we can be an OPC DA server and have anybody else's third-party client come along and collect tag information directly from us. So a lot of connectivity as options there. Talking about this idea excuse me, of tag scope, and the idea that I mentioned is server. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in an application here, an InduSoft Web Studio application, and explain that a little bit more. If we talk about tags in the project tag database here, and we have this column here called scope, and you can see by default the scope is server. Now what that means is that when you're running an application in a situation like this, where you have one runtime and then multiple clients, well, each one of those clients has its own kind of virtual copy of the tag database. And if your scope is set to server, again, which it is by default, then you change a value either on one of the clients. Let's say you change a value on one client. That tag, again, if it's server scope, will go back to the main runtime, and then the main runtime will update that information on all the other clients as well. But if you have that tag set as local scope, then everybody has their own copy of it. Now where this comes into advantage is we make a tag called isServer, and I don't think I have one in this application, but I'll show you how I'm going to do this. We'll make a new tag called isServer, and we'll make that just a Boolean type. And now if we set this to local scope, then everybody has their own copy of that tag. Now the other piece of this puzzle is understanding how the VB-Script interfaces work within InduSoft Web Studio. Now let's take a look at the help system, which came up off screen here. If we take a look at the help system, when we look at VB-Script, there's this section here called VB-Script interfaces in the software. Now for those of you who have used InduSoft Web Studio, you'll know that there's quite a few different places where you can create VB-Script, whether it's on a button, let's say with a command animation, or the screen script or graphic script. And if you take a look, this column here called execution is really important. As an example, if you create global procedures, you're really not executing those scripts in the global procedures. They're really function calls or subroutines that you're executing wherever you're calling them from. And if you take a look down here, does the other types of scripts run in the server, or do they run on the thin clients? Okay, and where this really becomes important is this concept of am I the server or is server. Notice here in the startup script that only runs on the server. It does not run in the thin clients. So the next piece of this is to go here to the task tab, and in the startup script, what I would do is to add that tag is server, and I would set that equal to 1 here in the startup script. And by doing this, it's going to be set to 1 on the server, but all the clients are going to remain at their default value, which should be 0. So each one of these can tell who they are now, or that they're not the server, because that value will be 0. Now you can take this to another step and work with these. I think I have these in the slideshow here. Let me advance a little bit. The functions get computer IP or get computer name. By using those functions, and I'm just going to do this here in the database SPY, get computer, if I could spell, M-P-U-T-E-R, IP, and if it's a function, I have to have parentheses there. You can see that reports my IP address as a string. And very similar, I can say get computer name, and that will report the name of my PC that Windows sees. So by using either one of these coupled with isServer, I can determine, am I a client? Which client am I? If I go back to that other diagram here, and sorry, I should have put these on consecutive slides, but here maybe this PC is named Production 1, Cafeteria PC, and Energy PC. I can determine, am I a client And am I the production one PC, then go do this. If I'm a client and I'm the cafeteria PC, maybe I want to look at this other information. So those are some different ways that you can utilize that, those techniques there. So let's skip back here to this slide and talk about a couple more features. Of course, I didn't do that right. Let's skip ahead here. And so we talked a little bit about VB Script scope. Some other ideas are the ability to use an ActiveX browser or .NET browser within an application to view maybe production reports that are HTML. That's another thing. Even Windows Media Player can be embedded, and I'll show you a concept of that. Let me open up an application, this application that I have here, and if we take a look at this screen here, let's see, which one is it? I think it's this one, Digital Signage. This little black rectangle here is actually Windows Media Player. That's an ActiveX that we've embedded in there. And when we run this application, I'm going to go ahead and run this and go to that screen. What you'll see is a video playing. Now that black rectangle now, because it's Windows Media Player, is going out and playing a video. Maybe it could be a training video, maybe it could be a webcam somewhere, whatever the case may be. So if we have an ActiveX object, we can get to that or view training videos or help videos, things of that nature. So lots of great information. Let's continue on through this. So here's the maps that I was talking about, the wayfinding, and this application. Let's see if we can find Starbucks. Well, not advertising Starbucks, but just showing you where it is here on the map. And then, of course, if we have a giant Starbucks coffee, then we're going to need to find the restrooms. So the restrooms are located here and here. So those are some different things. Now, this would be great with large touch screens. Some other ideas here, we could use some web services and go out and pull weather forecasting sites and grab weather. Could be news, could be RSS feeds. Could grab RSS feeds, and we can even do multi-touch. Now, my laptop is not multi-touch, but in a multi-touch application, I can throw this ball across the screen, and it'll go into the goal. I can rotate this knob, and I can zoom in on this map. So those are all capable things. And then here's a live demo of that OEE screen, that overall equipment effectiveness. So you can see if this was on a, let's say, a 70 or an 80-inch monitor, that would be an actual huge display. And you can see from hundreds of feet or many, many meters away. Things like an energy monitor, where I'm grabbing information from a database and maybe multiple PLCs in here. And here's an and-on system that might show some various information on different operations. So get out of this here and go back in, and let's see. So there's Windows Media Player, talked about multi-touch. Let's talk briefly about symbols before I hand it over to Andre. Symbols, if you're not familiar with those, we've got a lot of great training videos on our website. And before we flip over to the website, what I did want to do is show you, let's see if I can get this to run full screen there. I'm going to create a brand new screen and insert a couple of symbols that I have. So this is going to be 1920 by 1080, and so I've got a very large space screen here, but I'm going to go grab some of the symbols that I created for doing an and-on system, and those are on our website, and I'll show you where to find those. So let's say that I grab this this symbol here, and I place this on the screen. That's all I have to do then is configure it with some text to be shown on the first line, optionally on the second line. What tag value do I want it to show? And what's the threshold when it changes from red to green or green to red? And I've got a few different symbols up there that either change from red to green at the threshold or green to red. And now Andre's taken a great approach, and I really like this because we're hearing this from more and more of our users that have taken a simple color approach or lack of color, and only show color when there's an issue or a problem. So I like his idea on that. So let me drag this off the screen here and then bring our website into play here. And what I'd like to point out is a couple of different things. Here on our website under the marketing, we have some case studies. And if you didn't know this, we just have recently put up there Andre's digital signage case study, so feel free to come to our website and download that. I don't want to give too much away before he presents. Also on the website, in either the blog or on the store, you'll see this section here for free add-ons. And here we're doing a Symbol of the Week program, where every week we're releasing a new symbol. So you can see some really nice symbols in here. These are free of charge, and just come in and download those. And you can see some statuses and some I/O modules, some gauges, some stoplight indicators, so lots of different things. And then what I wanted to point out is this and-on symbol set. And this upper corner one is the one that I just showed you. I put into that application. There's a lot of different symbols in there, titles and different gauges, and whether it's a square box or a linear one. But also in here, I created a 15-minute video. Actually, I think it's an 11-minute video. I've created an entire production monitoring system using those symbols in just 11 minutes. So feel free to watch that video, and if you want to download those symbols, you can come right here into our store and get those free of charge. So, and if you need anything modified or have any questions, feel free to let me know. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and hand things on over to Andre.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. I'm Andre Janssen, the owner of Compunet Automation. I've been involved in the engineering and automation industry for approximately 20 years now. Compunet Automation is an automation solution provider based in Durban on the east coast of South Africa. Our company was established 13 years ago in 2001, and we've got a small but dedicated team of developers that focus on developing bespoke solutions for our customers. We've been involved in many projects locally and abroad since our beginning. Prior to us discovering InduSoft, we actually developed our own SCADA solutions and low-level communication drivers to integrate various devices into existing and new automation projects. We work on many different PLC brands due to the different industry sectors that we serve. Let's have a look how we managed to use InduSoft together with open source products to develop a cost-effective digital signage solution. We were contacted by one of our long-standing customers in the automotive industry to propose a new, more updated solution to their current add-on system that was installed in 2003. The system served them very well over the years, but it wasn't able to display all the information that they now required to display on these add-on boards. Being old LED matrix displays, a simple software change was not possible, because these boards were all purpose-built with static text. If you can see at the bottom of the screen, there's similar boards that they had there. They've got static text and very small LED display areas. Communication to all these add-on boards were via serial protocol, and due to the age of these displays, maintaining them became more difficult as spares were very hard to come by. The challenges that we faced were that the client wanted the solution rolled out to production in a very short time. We looked into the possibility of off-the-shelf solution, but found that none of these solutions were cost-effective and did not entirely fit our or the customer's needs. Most of these solutions required a slimline desktop computer mounted on the back of each display with a rather complex server and client software to manage all these displays. We were not entirely happy with this and decided to develop our own solution with some basic criteria that we set out to work towards. Firstly, we wanted a cost-effective, energy-efficient solution with a very small form factor. The system needed to be Ethernet based, as this allows us to use standard off-the-shelf products. Our last criteria was that the client could access the system via a web browser with no difficult setups and software installation on the client devices. As we have done this kind of application development before, we investigated writing a bespoke application to suit the customer's needs, but quickly realized that the development cost would be too high, as we needed to write all the low-level communication drivers before even starting with the actual application development. After doing some further investigation and communicating with InduSoft, we decided to use InduSoft Web Studio to develop this application for our clients. Once we actually decided on the development platform that we were going to use, we started searching for hardware that would satisfy the criteria that we set out at the start of the project. We looked at small thin client PCs, but found that these units did not meet the energy efficiency criteria that we had set. With us being very involved in open source projects, we decided why not look into the possibility of using a small single board computer. This in itself obviously created some challenges, as most of these single board computer systems that are being developed are running on a Linux operating system. And as we all know, InduSoft is a Microsoft Windows-based system that doesn't have any cross-platform capability as yet. The Raspberry Pi unit came to mind as a unit ticked all the right boxes. It had very small form factor. As you can see on the screen, this is a blown-up image. It's got built-in Ethernet, USB, there's RCA and sound jacks, HDMI and general purpose I/O ports built in on the port. And the best of all is the unit consumes under 5 watts of energy compared to a small PC that consumes between 300 and 500 watts. The only stumbling block that we had was that the Raspberry Pi runs on a Linux operating system. I've actually got a off-screen web browser that I'll bring onto screen here. Just showing the guys where they can actually get more information on the Raspberry Pi units. And later on, I'll be talking about PuTTY as well. There's a link to PuTTY. You can find it at putty.org. If you go to download PuTTY, you'll find it there. You can download PuTTY, and at raspberrypi.org, you'll find a lot of information about the Raspberry Pi boards. Once we decided on the Raspberry Pi, we found that the Raspberry Pi has a HTML5 based web browser that ticked the last box in our criteria for the display solution. We now had a conceptual solution that we could start our initial testing with. And with the release of InduSoft Web Studio 7.1, if I can remember correctly, the SMA client was updated to allow direct access to the screens in the project. This was a major breakthrough for us, as we now have the ability to have a client that could remotely log into a specific screen without any user intervention from the client side. Here's a conceptual layout that we presented to our clients with the existing customer network connecting up to their databases. They've got several Oracle and Microsoft SQL databases. We installed separate Ethernet cards in the machine to create an isolated network for the and on display screens. Just running on normal Cat5 onto switches onto the IntelliDisplay units, and the screens actually connected directly onto the IntelliDisplay units. The display screens varied in size from 60 to 32 inch on the smaller stations, and the system can handle up to 128 clients per server, which is way more than we actually required for this project. The installation of the network infrastructure was quickly done by a subcontractor, and this allowed us to start with the actual development of the application and the Raspberry Pi enclosures. We needed enclosures for the Raspberry Pi power supply to allow the unit to be powered by a normal IEC power cord. We designed an enclosure as we could not find any enclosures that suited our needs. The IntelliDisplay unit comes to life thanks to our in-house 3D printer. The first consignment of IntelliDisplay units were printed on our in-house 3D printer, and the single size measures about 130 by 130 by 37 millimeters high, with built-in mounting tabs for easy mounting on the back of the display units. We've got the HDMI port that is exposed, the Ethernet, and then we've got a IEC cord that you can plug in for the power. For those people that don't know about 3D printing, I've just included a picture of a 3D printer on the slide that they can see. It's actually a very nice rapid prototyping tool that you can get for your office. We are also in the process of designing molds to actually have the IntelliDisplay units enclosures injection molded. The project required us to display data from various sources. With using InduSoft Web Studio, this was easily accomplished with database and OPC support built directly into the product. Tags from 5 different PLCs were collected via an OPC server, and some data was collected from an existing Microsoft SQL database. We developed some screen symbols, and I'll shortly show you in the InduSoft project what they look like, and used high contrast colors to enable the add-on screens to be easily readable from a distance. The color changes, as Scott mentioned, will be only used that if anything was out of the production that it would show the underperforming areas. Let me just pull the InduSoft project over. Here's the alarm build out, and then the station screens. On these units, everything has been done with a black text on white display, with the color only changing once the unit goes over takt time. This display will show the current and the previous takt time of the station. So once the current takt time goes over the allowed time or comes close to it, it will first change to orange and then to red to indicate that they have gone over takt time. The display will then show the values on the previous takt time once they get a new unit in. Getting the data to display on the Raspberry Pi was fairly easy, as the browser on the Raspberry Pi supports the HTML specification. By configuring the Raspberry Pi in a kiosk mode, it enabled us to have a system where the client screens would boot up and open a web browser pointing to a iOS server that we had installed on the same Skoda PC that they had existing in the plant. The Raspberry Pi web browser points to the iOS server with the HTTP server name MA index notification. I must just highlight to the users that the username and password is viewable in the address bar, so you must please ensure that the guest user that generally gets used for this has got minimal rights on the system for security purposes. On the Raspberry Pi, we are booting it into a full screen mode, so you won't be able to see the address bar, but if clients utilize iPads or smart devices, they will be able to see the username and password displayed on their address bar. After the screen development, we realized that we required a way of rebooting the screens remotely after any development change on the screen, or if the screen became unresponsive. This is where the other piece of software came in very handy. By using the ability of InduSoft Web Studio to execute command line scripts with a 1x function, we were able to execute a Windows command line scripting. Here's the help file for the WinExec function that runs directly out of InduSoft and allows you to execute Windows command line programs or other Windows programs. We used another open source program called PuTTY that I showed you the link for earlier on to open a secure SSH client to the Raspberry Pi and then run a reboot script on the Raspberry Pi. This completed the solution as accessing the screens mounted on at heights requiring the use of personal lifting equipment was not always possible. Here's a extract from the application there. From the reboot button, we've got the on-down event of the reboot button executing the 1x script, running the get at path function. With the link to the PuTTY application, we draw out the station IP address, send the SSH command that we want to, open the SSH command, and then send the password through to the Raspberry Pi. And then there's another get API that we actually use to send this text at the bottom. It's a small text file, just called restart text, that we send to the Raspberry Pi unit to reboot it. And for those that's not familiar with Linux, this command here will, the sudo shutdown -R now will give you admin rights on the Raspberry Pi, and then shut it down, and the R is for restart, and now it's just a time period that it will do it immediately. As the command is executed and the script is executed and the screen reboots, any changes to the screen will be shown in at the time of startup again. Adding new displays into this system is very easy. We developed the screen on InduSoft for the correct orientation. As Scott showed earlier on, you can set the pixel size of your screen, and by using symbols that we set up in the project, it is really easy to get a new screen going. I'm just going to pull the InduSoft project into view again. If I show you the properties, Scott touched it earlier on, but if you see the only thing that we need to do to add a new screen for one of the the TACCOM stations is configure the line name, the station which is sitting in an array, the previous time and current time, and the actual name of the station, and that's at the screen is configured. We also then need to just go into the communication and set up the OPC data tags. And this is a sample application that I've actually put together for this webinar. So there's no OPC data tags. There's just in the script scheduler, I've just got some tags running there to simulate data. And once the screen is completed, to get the screen installed, it's literally 120 to 230 volt AC power source and an Ethernet point connecting onto the screen. screen onto the customer's anon network. We have done some tests with these anon display screens with Wi-Fi links and found that they work very well. The USB Wi-Fi adapters the small USB dongles works very well on the Raspberry Pis, but does require some extra configuration on the Raspberry Pi project. By using InduSoft Web Studio, it enabled us to actually focus on the task at hand. We didn't have to do any low-level communication development. The customer now has an add-on system that they can have changed as their needs for the information on these displays changes. The low form factor and lightweight design of the IntelliDisplay units, together with the lightweight of the screens, make installation very easy. These units can display data on any monitor that has HD capability with DVR or HDMI ports. The ease of deployment and ability to add new screens to the system makes it a very user-friendly solution. The use of high contrast colors on the high definition displays makes these screens easily readable at a great distance. The solution was developed for the automotive industry, but could very easily be used in any application where the display of real-time data is required. My contact details are displayed on the screen now for anybody who would like to get more information about this project. And we're very excited about the possibilities that this would create moving forward. The use of open source products in industry is especially the use of Linux is still fairly new in the industry. And we hope that you have found this interesting and would be able to use this in your future projects. We would like to thank Scott and InduSoft for allowing us to present this solution to the community.
Andre, thank you very much. We really appreciate all the effort you put into this. Thank you.
Not a problem, Scott.
And I have to. I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but I have to give you extra special credit because where you're located, I think it's now approaching 11 p.m. at night, and I think you have to leave the house or get up at 3 a.m. in the morning. So I hope you don't mind me sharing that, but it's very much appreciated that you're doing this for us.
Not a problem. Great pleasure. Thanks for having me present this, Scott.
So I'm going to take presentation status back from you, and I'm going to mute you. And for those of you who haven't been on an InduSoft webinar like this before, we can't hear you during the webinar. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put those into the chat panel or the Q&A panel on your WebEx interface, and we'll see if we can't get those answered. Right now, we don't have any questions in, so I'm going to just take a couple of minutes and talk about a couple of things that I've done or noticed. We got a couple of great comments. Good, really great. Thank you for the comments. But so I'm going to take just a couple of minutes, and if you got any questions, please feel free to put those in. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring this InduSoft application back in and just talk about a couple of things. Now, one of the things that I had noticed this morning that Andre didn't have, and I noticed that he has since added it to his InduSoft interface, is a lot of times when you're working with large screen applications, in this case this is a 1920 by 1080 pixel screen, it's too big for you to see all in one space here. So we could remove and reduce all the database spy and the output window and all of this stuff. In fact, there's a lot of nice tools to be able to self-collapse and expand those just by clicking on that little auto hide pin there. But what I had noticed this morning when Andre presented was that he went into the View tab here, and then said fit to window. And what that did is it scaled his screen to fit into the space that you have available there. Well, what I told him is that I add that because I was working on a lot of digital signage projects. I added that right to this quick access toolbar by coming in here and saying more commands, and then adding that to the toolbar there. So now, if we're zoomed out at 100%, now instead of navigating to the View tab and finding this, I just click on this icon up here and it automatically does that. So I don't have to take the extra added steps. Andre said that he added the quick access tool button just to see if I would notice, and yes, I did notice. Another thing that I wanted to point out, Andre was talking about colors, and I talked about it's kind of an increasing trend that we see customers kind of limiting their use of colors or making most of their screens either grayscale or very high contrast. Recently, in a tips and tricks webinar that I did, I don't know, a few months ago, I'm losing track of time, but one of the things, and you can find that recording on our website, one of the things that I did in that webinar is I made a way to change the color of a background and put different colored text. In this case, it's black text, white text, and yellow text. And it could do this with any text, but I used, instead of the limit type, I used this color, and I used this function that we have called RGB color, and I made 3 tags, red, green, and blue, and I used these sliders down here to change the value of the tag red, the tag green, and the tag blue between the values 0 and 255. And when we run this, now what we do is we can change, depending on those colors, we can change each of those sliders and see what do these text objects look like with red, maybe a little bit less red, with green, and then with blue, and we can mix those red, green, and blue and get a combination of what colors, whether it's maybe a medium gray, whether it's a lighter gray, if I put all these darker gray, or a lighter gray, if I put these all similar values up close to the top, it'll be a lighter gray. And you can see that, for example, if I make this white, the white text obviously disappears, and the black, if I mix this, makes the black disappear, actually. It doesn't disappear, you just can't see it. But the reason I did this was for an application that was a digital signage application, and we wanted to see what color combinations work best. And we actually had some students come in, and we did a study with about 30 different people from different distances to be able to see how far away they could see what color combinations. So there's some ideas for you. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? Lots of good compliments coming in. More compliments. Any questions? Feel free to ask those away. If not, I'm going to very soon end the webinar. But we'd really, again, like to very much thank Andre for doing this and staying up late. More good compliments. Thank you very much. Very informative, found the material very interesting. One of the things that I found most interesting was that I know we promote the SMA solution in being able to use HTML5 browsers, and we often promote it because we've tested it this way with Internet Explorer 9 and 10, Chrome, and Safari. And so very often you're going to find it being used on iPads, with Safari and iPhones, and Android if you download the Chrome browser onto an Android device, or Internet Explorer, but I've never seen anybody using it on Raspberry Pi. Andre, I'm going to open up your audio here, and do you know what browser you used on the Raspberry Pi? Was there something included in that Linux distribution?
Scott, it was actually a version of Chrome that it's Chromium that runs on the Raspberry Pi that I downloaded, and we utilized the Chromium version, which supports HTML. The native unit does not support it. One thing I would like to mention with the web application is when you start the application, you actually need to if you use the limit by color, you need to pass in a color reference in your startup script to to actually set the colors. Otherwise, your backgrounds will only show up as black.
Yeah. It's a good point. There was another question that has come in about, do you have any documentation on HTML5? You can find, I don't know if they're specifically asking about HTML5 or our implementation of it. If you take a look at the thin client, clarification there. The thin client section in our help, in fact, I'll just go ahead and call that up here. If we take a look at the thin client section, this mobile access section, mobile access is our solution for HTML5. So it talks about all the different features that can be used, and you can see there's quite a few shapes. I don't know an actual percentage, but I would say we're about maybe 90% of all the objects can be viewed on an HTML5 browser. There's a handful of things like the grid object, the trend object, and the alarm object that are not supported at the moment, but we're adding HTML5 capable things all the time to the product. So there's some documentation. Let's see, questions about how you figured out how to do certain things. I'd like to ask whoever, the person that asked that, if you have a specific question, because I'm not figuring out exactly what you're looking for, send me an email. I'd be happy to answer that. Lots more good compliments coming in. So with that, I think, Andre, I'd like to thank you again, and I'd like to thank everybody for attending today, and we're going to go ahead and close out the webinar. Andre, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Scott, and thanks for everybody for attending.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day, and don't forget to fill out your survey and get your free T-shirt just for joining us. Thanks, everybody.